I'm David. Thank you for joining me in this how to play video of Clank, a deck building adventure. This is part of our project here to do videos on the top 100 family games as ranked by Board Game Geek users. Behind me is a sample of the top 20 of that top 100 list. At the time of this recording in October 2019, Clank is in the top 10 of the top 100 family games, and it's also in the top 100 overall games of all games on Board Game Geek. So it's a very popular game. If you haven't had a chance, please check out our review video and playthrough video. So the object of Clank is to score the most points. So you're playing thieves, going into a castle with a dungeon underneath it, and in the dungeon you have to get at least one artifact to escape before the dragon basically destroys you, where you get knocked down. So let's take a look at the setup first. So you'll see that you were provided a two-sided board. This side of the board is the more, you can play this after you've played the game a couple times. They recommend that you play this side of the board is considered the introductory side. So you'll lay out the board, and the next thing you'll notice is that you have areas where you have secrets. And so the secrets, you're going to have more secrets here than can be placed on the board. So you just randomly take the secrets and place them without revealing them. So secrets are discovered by your thieves, can be discovered by your player when you move into a room. So everywhere I see a large secret, now the large secrets are generally better than the smaller secrets which you see here. So you'll see that I have two left over and I don't look at them to see what they are. And just by the way, on the back of the rule book, you can see what the large secrets do, which I'll go over here in a moment. Next, you're going to place two small secrets in each small secret space. And again, you will have some left over as well. And it's easy to miss this, so you might want to have someone check you. So I have also two left over. Next, you're going to fill in the marketplace. You'll see there's 4 marketplaces here with keys, with a backpack, and the crowns, which I'll go over in a minute what those are. And so you'll spend 7 gold to acquire one of these. Over here you have some special monkey idols. Hear no evil, see no evil, say no evil. And they're worth 5 points. That's what the green means, by the way, is that's how many victory points it's worth. The players start here at the top, having come out from the village. And there's a bonus tokens you can get if you manage to get down to the dungeon, get an artifact, and get back out. And if you manage to do that before you get knocked down, you'll get a bonus 20 points. And so you'll see right here, it says 20 right there. Okay, next are the artifacts. Now, depending on the number of players, you're going to place so many artifacts. So I have to look that up again. So with 2 players, which is what I'm setting up for, you're going to remove 2 artifacts. If you play with 3 players, you remove 1 artifact. And if you play with 4 players, you play with all the artifacts. So now I'm going to remove 2 artifacts randomly. You see how I have them upside down here? I remove 2. Now, I will know which ones of these will be missing after I place them. So we're missing the 20-point and the 15-point artifact. So artifacts are worth more if they're deeper in the dungeon. So this is the easiest one to get. It's worth 5 points. This is the hardest one to get, worth 25. You just match them up. Actually, 25 and 30. 30 might be harder. 7 is an Ankh. 10 is a Vase or a Vase. Where is that at? I'm having trouble finding it. I'll find it in a moment here. And then here is the 30-point one. I don't know where the 10-point one is. Oh, right here. See, I missed it here. It goes right here inside the marketplace. And by the way, there aren't any missing small secrets left. You actually place them all. So I made an error there because I haven't, usually Julie sets up the game. And so there's no remaining small secrets left. There might be when you play with the expansion. So I missed that there. So when I set up the game, you use all the small secrets. You will have 2 large secrets left, and depending on the number of players, you will have either 2 artifacts removed for a 2-player game, 1 artifact removed for a 3-player game, or no artifacts removed for a 4-player game. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to go through the castle first, and then to the dungeon, get 1 artifact and get 1 artifact and get out. Next thing we got to do, we have to set up the dragon. So the dragon doesn't like us going into its lair. So you notice here, there's a 4-player mark, 3-player mark, and 2-player mark. Since we're setting up for a 2-player mark, we put it here. That means that we're going to draw 3 cubes out of the Clank bag. And so there's 24 dragon cubes. So this kind of represents your sand timer right here. So I'm going to put all 24 into here. And when we draw, we'll put Clank here because we'll be making noise as we're getting things, which will alert the dragon to what we're doing. And I'll explain that mechanic in a moment. But the point is, all 24 of the dragon cubes go in there. In a 2-player game, he starts here. And as the game progresses, as you get artifacts and dragon eggs, you'll see that you'll draw more cubes out of the bag, which will potentially damage you here. So now we go to the player setup. So here I am with 30 of my health cubes. Julie has her 30 health cubes right here. And since I'll be going first, I take 3 Clank. I put them here in the Clank area. Julie's going second. She'll place 2. If you're playing with 3 players, the 3rd player would place 1. If we're playing with 4 players, the 4th player places 0 Clank. So I'll explain how Clank gets put into the bag here. So like I said, you have, as a sand timer, you have the dragon cubes, but if you draw, once you put these cubes in there, and if you draw, if your color comes up, you get damage. You could take 10 damage before you get knocked down. So how do you set up, since this is a deck drafting game, a deck building, I should say. You get so many burgles. Each player gets 6 burgles, 2 stumbles, which aren't good cards, 1 sidestep, and 1 scramble. So each person starts out with 10 cards. So Julie will have her 10 cards here, and she would shuffle those up. And then she would draw 5 of the 10. The other 5 would go here into her draw pile. At any time when you can't, so every turn you're going to draw 5 new cards. And at any time, if you can't draw 5 from your draw pile, you will shuffle your discard and draw the remaining. So let's say, for instance, I only had 2 left. I played these cards. They go into my discard pile. I draw 2, and I had all these in my discard pile. I would shuffle these to draw the other 3. So let me go over what these cards mean real quick. Well, first we set up the game. I'm going to go over, well, actually, there's one more thing I need to do. I forgot. So we have the gold here that you get. By the way, each gold is worth 1 victory point. You have the draw pile for, what do they call that deck? The dungeon deck. These are available for anybody to buy. And you have the goblin. So you put these off to the side. So you need to populate 6 cards here. But before I populate the 6 cards, I want to go over some of them first. Let's first go over the cards that you start with. So the first thing you notice here, you have this symbol and this symbol. This is a boot symbol, which you need to move through the dungeon. The dungeon in the castle. This is your skill symbol, which you use to buy other cards. This is, again, this card allows you to move 1 space. Stumble means you'll add a Clank. So one of the key things to remember is that you cannot avoid playing your cards typically. So the 5 cards that I will draw, I have to play all 5. Now I might acquire a card later on in the dungeon deck that allows me to discard a card before playing it, which means I could discard that stumble card and not add a Clank. Because remember, Clank will get added to the dragon bag, and if you pull out those your cubes of your color, you get hurt. So I don't want to add a Clank. So yeah, movement, stumble, I add a Clank, and this is burgle. This gives me a skill. So what do you do with those skill cards? So, well, I guess I'll go over the boot cards first. So on the board, every time you get a boot, you can move into a space. So if I play the sidestep card, I can move right here. When you have a footprint symbol on a hallway space, it will cost 2 boots to move through. So I would have to have played both these cards to move into here. And when I move into there, I can get one of these secrets. Or, well, let me explain something else first. If I move into a crystal cavern, it will cost 1 boot to move in there typically, or it could cost 2 from here. But if I have any remaining boots left, I won't be able to use them. So let's say I did play 2 boots. I actually, I drew them and played them. I move into here. I would typically have 1 left, but because I went into the crystal cavern, my turn, I can't use that remaining boot. Now, what is this space? This is a monster space. So it would still cost a boot to move through here, but I'll take 1 damage from the monster space here. And if you want to see what that symbol looks like up close, without me lifting up the board, you might have a hard time seeing it here, these symbols that I'm pointing at. Here's the footprint symbol, which costs an additional boot symbol to move through that hallway. A monster icon, which will cost me a life, or if I spend a sword, then you'll see that there are lock icons where you need to buy these keys at the market. And so if you have these, it's not only worth 5 victory points, but allows you to move through spaces that have a padlock. So back to what do you do when there is a monster icon? Well, I can spin a boot, move through there, and take a damage, which would come out of and I'd put the damage right here. Now I can take only 9 more left. However, if I acquire a Mercenary Card or other cards with swords, I can spin one of these swords. Basically, anytime you get skills, boots, and swords, it goes into a pool, and you get to decide how you want to spend them on your turn. But you only add them to your turn when you play the cards, because I'll go over later when it comes time to playing cards in a certain order, it does matter. But let's say I did play this card and I have 2 swords. So that means if I spent a boot icon and I played my mercenary because I acquired him, I don't take a damage from that monster. 1 sword defeats that monster. So why is the goblin sitting here? Because you're going to have leftover sword icons at a time, and goblins are all over the dungeon. It doesn't matter what room you're in. You can defeat a goblin for 2 swords. So instead of using that mercenary icon to defeat that monster icon, I can instead use these 2 swords, and when I defeat a goblin, I get 1 gold. And by the way, I can defeat as many goblins as I have 2 swords. The goblin never goes away. So if I have 4 swords, I can defeat the goblin twice and get 2 gold. So that's the goblin card, and it stays up for anybody to use. Now the mercenary card, I didn't go over how you buy them yet. So right here is the cost. It will cost 2 skill to buy the mercenary. And he'll go into my discard pile when I acquire him. Then when I shuffle him back into my draw deck and I play him, he'll give me 1 skill and 2 swords. The explorer costs 3 skill, which will give me 2 skills and 1 boot. The tome costs 7 skill and gives me 7 victory points. Now this is a really good card to get. However, one of the issues with a deck building game is that when you place cards like this that only give you victory points, it clogs up your deck. So you may draw 5 cards, but if you draw 2 tombs, you might not be moving that turn because you didn't draw any boots. Or you might not be buying anything on that turn because you didn't draw enough skill icons. So this is a great card to get, but the problem is it will clog up your deck. And there's other cards that have similar features that's in the dungeon deck. So these are available for anybody to buy on their turn. And now I'm going to go over the dungeon deck, what cards that are in there. So anatomy of dungeon cards, because what we're going to do as part of setup is that we're going to put up 6 of these dungeon cards. So I want to go over first what makes up a dungeon card, or at least the different types. So you'll see there's cards that are blue. They give you different things. These are items. Here are monsters that you get. So you basically have two types of cards, three types, I'm sorry. Cards you can add that are companions or things that are permanently added to your deck. Then you have things that are one-time use. And then you have monsters. So let's go over these first. So this will give you 3 victory points at the end of the game. It costs 3 skill. It will give you 3 skill points when you play it from your hand, but you got to add 3 Clank. So this is a very dangerous card to have. Notice this one says companion. This one does not. Because there are certain cards where you got to look at the keyword companion, that if you have another companion in the cards that you play that round, you'll get bonuses. So this one will remove 2 Clank. This is why it matters what order you play in, because currently I have 3 Clank here. Let's say I didn't have any Clank here. I play the Scepter first, add 3 Clank, and then if I had this card, I play her next, and then I remove 2 Clank. If I did the other order, let's say I didn't have any Clank there, I played her first, there's no Clank to remove, and then I play this card next, and then I add 3 Clank. So this is a situation where it does matter what order you play your cards in. Now you will play all 5 cards on your turn. So again, here's an archaeologist. He'll allow you to draw a card, and then if you have a monkey idol, which you saw me place here, so if I have that in my hand, I'll get another 2 skill. So that's why it's a 0+, because you have to have the monkey idol to get it. And he's worth 1 victory point, and he costs 2. Now this card here, you'll see there's an icon that you haven't seen on the other ones. First off, it costs 8. If you acquire it, so you got to pay attention to this bottom row here, you will have to add 2 Clank, because you're basically adding things to your personal body that make noise. And it's worth 8 victory points at the end. However, there's a dragon icon right here. So when this comes up during the game, not during setup, you will pick up all the Clank that's on this banner here, put it into the bag, check where the dragon is, and draw that many Clank. So let's say this comes up right here. We bought some cards, and I reveal this dungeon card here. So it's a dragon card. By the way, it doesn't matter how many dragon cards let's say it was a situation like this. So I drew a dragon card for here, and I draw another dragon card. You only, at the end of a player's turn, when you replace the dungeon cards, it doesn't matter how many dragon cards you draw to replace the cards that were bought by that player, you only do 1 dragon attack. So I take these 5 Clank, I check where the dragon is, I'm going to draw 3 cubes, I check to see if there's any monsters. So since I'm going over this now, this monster, the kobold, you pull 1 additional cube for dragon attacks. But if I drew this card first and I didn't draw this one yet, this would take place first. Then I would draw the 3 cubes. Then I would draw the next card. It's another dragon attack, but since I already did one that turn, this doesn't come into effect. So again, it also matters what order you draw your dungeon cards in. If I drew this one first, then I would add a cube. I would draw 4 cubes. So I'd place these from here into the bag, shake it up, draw 4 cubes, and I got lucky. Only the dragon cubes were drawn. If I had drawn my red cubes or Julie's blue cubes, we would add it to our damage track here. So that's what happens when you draw new dungeon cards after they're purchased here. There will be 6 here. When a dragon symbol comes up, you check to see how many cubes you draw. You check to see, you place all the cubes here from the banner into the dragon bag, and then you draw. Then I would complete drawing. All right, I got this card. It doesn't matter that it has a dragon symbol. You only draw once for that turn. So back to the anatomy of the cards. Again, you got to pay attention to when it says companion. If you have another companion in your play area, draw a card. So if I, for instance, played this archaeologist on my turn, then played the rebel captain, I would be able to draw a card from my draw deck right here. So they're pretty much for these types of cards here, you got to pay attention to the acquire. So when you acquire certain cards, are you going to add Clank? And so you read the description when you play them. So those are the typical blue cards that you add to your hand. The purple cards you do not add to your hand. The exclamation mark means you got to pay attention to this text here, arrive. So when I draw, let's say this was here, I draw this off the top. Somebody bought a card here, and at the end of their turn, now we have to replace that card. You don't replace cards, by the way, as you purchase them. You only replace cards at the end of your turn after you're done with your turn. So I draw this. Okay, the shrine came up. And when it arrives, it says here, put 3 dragon cubes back in the bag. So it's basically like adding sand back into the timer. It's a one-use item when it's purple. Either I get a gold or heal a life. That's what that symbol means. So if we had drawn some cubes out of this bag, I would put 3 back in. If this card came up and there was no dragon cubes drawn yet, then that doesn't take effect. So this card, for instance, is a teleporter. I'd use it right away when I buy it for 4 and teleport to an adjacent room. So this is an important card to go over because if you move into a crystal cavern, remember you use all your boots when you move into a crystal cavern. It doesn't matter if I had 3 left. Once I move in there, I lose all my boots. A teleport item, there's some items that allow you to teleport, or the teleport device will allow you to teleport out of the crystal cavern. It doesn't matter, though, if you have any boots left after you had teleported. The rule that takes effect first is once you go into a crystal cavern, you lose all boots, and you cannot use any more boots that turn, even if you acquire another item from the draw deck. So let's say, for instance, I'm here. I used all my boots. I buy this teleport card. I spend my skill points and buy it for 4 because it's an item. I discard it. I put it over here in the discard pile, and I teleport into this room. Let's say I had some money left, and I got this, and I bought this ladder item, which allows me to move 2 more spaces. Well, it's not something I should buy because I left the crystal cavern room. I cannot spend any more boots. So that's a key rule to understand that once you go in a crystal cavern for your turn, you cannot spend any more boots, no matter how you get them to move again, even if you teleport out of the room. So one more type of card to go over, and those are monster cards. So you got to pay attention to the arrive. All players get +1 Clank. And so no matter where you are in the dungeon, you can attack a monster. And it would cost 3 to defeat this person. So when you defeat it, you look at the text here. You get 3 gold. All other players get +1 Clank. The kobold, I already went over. You defeat it, you get 1 skill. And he basically draws more dragon cubes if he's up in play. The ogre costs 3 swords to defeat him. If you defeat him, you get 5 gold. So those are the basics of the cards. You got blue cards that you add to your deck. Oh, sorry, that wasn't blue. Blue cards you add to your deck. Purple cards that you buy and use right away. Red cards, which are monsters, which will affect, which you can defeat and get rewards when you defeat them when you'll have to buy swords. So I'm going to now shuffle this up and go over just a quick little couple turns. Oh, one more thing I didn't go over on the board. You can only acquire 1 secret when you go into a room. Let's say I had enough boots and I spend 2 boots to go in here, acquire the secret, spend 2 boots to go back. And then if I had 2 more boots, I can go back in on the same turn to get the other one. So it actually cost me 6 boots to do that in the same turn. When you go into a marketplace, you can buy these items for 7 gold. So this crown, for instance, gets progressively less points. The first person to buy a crown gets 10. The second person to buy a crown gets 9 victory points and 8 victory points. And you keep these until the end of the game. If you get a backpack, this is the only time that you could actually carry 2 artifacts. So it's worth 5 victory points, and you can carry 2 artifacts. Another little rule to remember is that once you acquire an artifact, you can't drop it. And when you acquire an artifact, the dragon gets mad, and he moves up. So in a 2-player game, if both players acquire an artifact, the dragon for sure will be here. If you acquire dragon eggs, the dragon can be all the way up to here. And the dragon eggs, by the way, will be underneath these small secrets. And because we placed all the small secrets, there are 3 dragon eggs throughout the board. The other thing is, let's see here, you can heal there, I mentioned that. Oh, these arrows mean one way. So if I'm right here, I cannot go this way. But at the end, if I went around like this, I could go out that way through that arrow. So it's a one-way path or hallway. Here, if you can go from one side of the dungeon to the other, so it's a wrap around. And I don't see any other things I need to go over on the map board. All right, so now I'm going to shuffle the deck. And now that you understand how the dungeon deck works, I'm going to place 6 cards. Now, why did I wait to place those 6 cards? Because when you set up the dungeon deck, if you draw any cards with the dragon on it, you do not place. And one thing that the rule I'm not too sure about, I couldn't find this on the forums or in the rules. If I draw a card that says when arrive, I'm assuming it doesn't take effect, just like the dragon doesn't take effect. So I'll explain that in a moment here. So here's the cards. I'm going to place 6. So I basically cannot place that card. Okay, I can place that one. That one. Now this one says, arrive, all players get +1 Clank. It's not clear in the rule book if you apply that to the 6 cards that you place. So I'm assuming that it doesn't take effect. Someone can tell me in the description if it does take effect. That's just a rule that either I'm overlooking or it's not provided. Next 3 cards. Okay, we got another monster. Okay, can't place that one because it has a dragon on it. All right. So then I would take those 2 cards that I drew with dragons on it and shuffle them back into the deck. All right. So now we have our 6 cards. We have 4 items we can add to our deck and 2 monsters that we can attack from anywhere. However, the Crystal Golem has a special condition. You can fight only in the Crystal Cave. So I have to be in a Crystal Cave to defeat him, and it costs 3 swords to do that. So now the game is set up. You understand how the cards work. The playthrough, we go through a whole game. One other thing I need to mention is what happens if you lose 10 damage. So this is very important distinction to make here. So if any player loses their 10 health, it depends on where they are in the game. If they lose 10 health and they don't have an artifact yet, they're out of the game. So there's a little bit of player elimination there. If they lose 10 health and they have an artifact in the dungeon, they're out of the game. If they lose 10 health and they have an artifact and they're in the castle, they get dragged out by the townspeople, but they don't get the 20-point bonus icon. So the only person that gets a 20-point bonus icon are those that escape, they get an artifact and go back out through the top here with that artifact. Again, just to reiterate, if you get knocked, if you lose your 10 health down here with or without an artifact, you're out of the game. And then you'll place your piece here, which I'll explain what happens next. If you get knocked down here and you have an artifact, you get dragged out by the townspeople. The first player, and this is very important, the first player that gets knocked out goes to the top. If anybody, or the first player that escapes goes to the top, which I'm about to show you. The second player that escapes or the second player that gets knocked down does not go at the top. So what does that mean when you go at the top? You basically, it's like a timer. So Julie's still in the dungeon here. I got out first. So on my turn, I will not play cards. Even other players that get out or get knocked out will not play their cards anymore. But only the first player that gets out or gets knocked down places their pawn here. So Julie does her turn. My piece starts here. Then I move over here. That means that I'm going to draw from the dragon bag. It's like a timer for Julie to rush her to get out so she doesn't stay forever. I draw, say the dragon's over here. Well, actually, it'd probably be over here by this time, but we probably have dragon eggs and artifacts. So I draw 5 cubes out of the bag, plus 1. Then I would draw. If Julie didn't get knocked out, her turn would go again, and say she gets here. Now I move here, I draw 2, plus that 5, and to say there was a monster here that actually added another cube, it's possible that it could even be as high as 1, 2, plus 5 is 7, plus a monster here. Draw 8 cubes. And if Julie managed to survive that, she would go again. And then I would draw 3 plus whatever's here. And then on the 4th turn, doesn't matter where she is, she will be knocked down. Again, if you can get out with an artifact, you'll get that bonus 20. So again, that's one of those special rules to remember. You got to have an artifact to get out and to avoid basically not scoring any points. If you are going to get knocked down, you got to get knocked down in the castle part. So let's do a little bit of a playthrough here to show you some turns. So here's my 5 cards. So I'll draw 5. Here's my draw deck. So I remember I have to play them. Now, this could matter playing the stumble last if I had a card in my deck where I could discard a card and avoid playing it. So right away I got to add 2 Clank to here because I have 2 stumble. I'll get to move twice and spend 2 skill points. So I can move here and here. I'm going to buy a Mercenary because I only have 2 buy. I could buy the Archaeologist. Maybe that's what I'll buy because then this will encourage me to go get the monkey idols that are over here. So I'll buy him for 2 and now I'll have 1 victory point at the end of the game. So I buy that card. It goes into my discard pile, not into my hand. So my turn's done and then I get 5 more cards. Okay, say Julie goes, she goes here, and she buys something. Oh, by the way, I forgot to do this. I bought the Archaeologist. I got to replace that card before Julie goes. So let me back up. Replace the card. Okay, right away, we got a dragon attack. So I have to, on my turn, notice I added 2 Clank on my turn, and I already had 3 there from going first. I add it to the bag. I look where the dragon is, which at the beginning of the game he would be here, and I draw 3 cubes out of the bag. So let's see if I get damaged, or if Julie gets damaged. Since it happened to my turn, I draw. So I got lucky, since there's 24 of these in here, you're more likely to draw the dragon cubes first. So, didn't get hit. Now Julie can go. Let's say Julie had 1 boot, and she's going to buy let's see here, she'll buy the silver spear. So she had enough to buy this, let's say. And it'll be worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. Oh, when you acquire it, she gets 1 sword. Unfortunately, it costs 2 swords to defeat the dragon. So that's pretty cool that when you acquire it, you can get a sword. But right now, she doesn't have any swords other than when she acquired this, and it would take 2 to defeat the goblin. So she adds it to the cards, say she played these 5 cards. I'm not going through her hand necessarily, but she adds it to her discard pile. So now we need to replace that card. All right, so again, you keep on doing this, At some point, someone is going to get down here. Let's say I get my monkey idol, and then I turn back and I get this artifact. Now, because I can only carry one artifact unless I get a backpack here for 7 gold in either one of these marketplaces, I might start heading back. Julie might have went deeper, and she got this one for 25 right here. And then she's been adding cards to her deck. So let's say on my turn, let me just draw some random cards here. Say I acquired these 5 cards. Make sure there's no item. Wow, there's a lot of items in here. When you defeat monsters, they also go in the discard pile. Okay, so say on my turn, I didn't draw any starter cards. I drew cards that I bought. So here's my draw pile. Now I just want to show you an advanced turn here. Okay, it gives me 2. For each clank that I place, I get +1 skill. Am I going to be placing any clank? When I acquired this, I would have placed 2, but not when I play it again. All right, so this guy, I'm not placing any clank this turn, so he's not going to give me any plus skill. But he does give me a boot. If you have another companion in your play area, draw a card. So you know what? I'm going to wait to play that guy. Okay, so I'm going to play this. No, I have to play him first. See, oh, no, because I played the cleric first. I need a companion to get that effect. So now I draw the card. Got another Burgle. I play him now. I play the Elven Dragger. I draw a card. Got another Burgle. Play the Sapphire. Get another card. So here's all the cards I played. Now this is my pool. I have 2, 4, 5. Nothing for this because I didn't play any clank. 6, 7, 8. So I can buy first, move first, or attack first. It depends on what order I want to go in. So I look here. Maybe I want to get a tome at this part in the game for 8 and I have 1 left over. Or maybe I want to buy more than one thing. You can buy as many things as you want as long as you have enough money. But I'll get a tome, not spend the last skill. I have 2 swords. Let's say I'm right here. Do I need swords to... Well, let's say I'm right here. Do I spend the sword to avoid taking a damage, or do I kill the goblin for 1 gold? Instead, I'm going to kill the goblin for 1 gold because every gold is worth 1 point at the end of the game. I move here, I take 1 damage. Let's say I already had some damage, and I can afford to do that. So I add a damage. And then I'm in the Crystal Cave. Even though I had 2 boots, my move stops. So let me show that I had 2 boots. And so I'm going to try to get to the end here. Julie's way down here. She's going to try to get back. If I do get here before her, well, not even before her, I'll get this. If I get out, I'll get that 20. Let's say Julie managed to get here. And then she would draw secrets along the way if she encountered them. Then, because I got out, I'd be drawing on my turn instead of placing cards to try doing the dragon attack. So hopefully, Julie gets here before she gets knocked down. And if she gets out, she'll get that bonus 20. But she definitely, as soon as I get out, needs to get up here in case she gets knocked down, so that way she's not eliminated from the game. So let me go over the secrets real quick. The secrets, again, are on the back. When you draw them, you can only, like I mentioned before, only get 1 secret per room, 1 small secret per room, or 1 large secret. If you go into a marketplace with a secret, you still get the secret and you can still purchase things. Or if you go into this room with the artifact, you can still get the artifact if you want. By the way, you are not required to pick up the artifacts if you want. You could pass through and ignore it. But once you get it, you can't drop it. So let's go over the secrets. This will give you a health, and you get to keep it for later. This you must use immediately to gain 5 skill points. You could turn this in or keep it for 5. It doesn't matter either way. Here, immediately draw 3 cards, then return the token to the box. And so you basically draw 3, and it's an immediate action. The chalice is just worth points. Here are minor secrets. Heal a life allows you to, and you can keep it for later. A boot, you can keep it for later and add another boot to your turn. Strength, you can add 2 swords and keep it for later. Here you must drink immediately and get, or use immediately and get 2 skill. Here you can keep it or convert it for 2 treasure. Either way, it's worth 2 points, or you can spend it. The magic spring, at the end of your turn, trash a card from your discard pile or play area. So that means you can get rid of some of those, if I look at my stumble here, this is a good time to get rid of these cards because these are terrible cards and they give you +1 clank. The dragon egg is great for points, but then when you acquire a dragon egg, the dragon gets mad and he moves up here. The dragon can never move past here. In a 2-player game, there are 3 dragon eggs, and if both players get both artifacts, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you got all 3 dragon eggs, but you can't go past. So if you want to see more of the playthrough of how Julie and I, when we play cards and acquire cards and what order we play them in, please watch the playthrough. One thing I need to go over is how do you score when the game ends? So the game ends a couple different ways. Both players get out to the top. Both players get knocked down, or one player in a 2-player game gets out and the other player gets knocked down. So let's say I got out and got the 20 bonus points. Julie got knocked down, but because she was here, she would still be able to count her points. So now I look at my deck. I got the 5 artifact, the 20 for getting out through the top the proper way, and then I have the monkey idol and 1 coin. So that's 5, 10, plus 20 is 30. I have 31 there. Then I look at the cards in my deck. I look for any green symbols and any special things, such as the archaeologist, which I don't, oh yeah, the archaeologist. Oh, well, it's only if I have a monkey idol. Some cards will give you bonus, will give you victory points if you have certain things. I don't have any of those in this here. Nope. So I had 31 here, 32, 33, 35, 39, 46, 47. Because I raced in and out so quick, I didn't have as many points. So it's possible that although Julie got knocked out, I left too early, let's say, and although she might have missed that 20-point bonus chip, she might have more points than me because she stayed longer. And she managed to get a bunch of treasures and things like that and buy better cards than I did. And she might have ended up winning even though I got out. So that's how you score at the end. You add up your cards, your gold's worth 1 each. Any of the treasures you got or artifacts, whoever has the most points wins. The player with the most valuable artifact would win in case of a tie. So, it seems like a lot of rules, but it's really simple if you're into deck building games. You just got to remember, pay attention to the hallways, pay attention to when you get knocked down and where it is, pay attention to when you draw the dungeon deck. Is there anything that says arrive? Or if you buy something, is there anything that says when acquired? And pay attention to the text when you play cards, because it does matter what order you go in. So, that's the how to play of Clank. If you get 100 likes, we will do a playthrough on how to play and review of the expansions. We have 2 of them, I think 3 of them actually. I haven't opened up the other one yet. And I know they're coming out with a legacy version, so we're looking forward to getting that as well. So please remember to subscribe and like